Hey there, Fletcher from All Things Overlanding here, and today on this episode of the podcast, I'm going to be talking about my truck. Now, I've had several trucks. My setup has kind of evolved over the years. What I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you around the truck, and I'm going to point out the different modifications that I've made, but I'm not just going to do it from like a walk-around standpoint. I'm going to explain the modifications, and I'm going to explain the why behind those modifications. Why did I do those things? Now, this is going to be a little bit different for everybody depending on your preferences, depending on the terrain that you're going to tackle and stuff. But again, I just feel like it'd be helpful to say like, hey, this is my third overlanding rig that I built, if you will. Here's one modification. I'm going to do it all the way around the truck. And here's the why. Here's why I did this and how it helps me enjoy overlanding more. So let's dive into my 2023 Nissan Frontier, the modifications I've made and the reasons for those modifications related to overlanding.
Understand where it came from, but you got it, I got it. It began in the land of the sandstorm. I fought it, though I wanted everything to do with what you gave to me. Loosening my grip.
All right, guys. So as I mentioned in the intro today, I'm going to be walking you around my 2023 Nissan Frontier Pro 4X. This is the quote-unquote off-road version of this truck. The biggest difference is just that it has a rear locker, which is nice if you do some challenging trails or obstacles and you just kind of want the option to get a little bit better traction. But again, today is not a walk around of the truck. I'm not going to walk you around it and just tell you about this, and that. There are walkarounds on my YouTube channel. If you want to go watch that, if you're a Nissan Frontier guy, definitely consider subscribing over there because there's tons of content on this truck there. But again, today I'm going to keep it more general and I'm going to talk about the modifications that I've made as well as the reasons that I made each modification. So starting at the front here again, I have got a Z1 off-road full assault style bumper. And what that means is it's got the whole middle section here that's steel, and then it's also got these wings on the side. Now, the reason for this is, again, it may be overkill. So if you are someone that does not care about off-roading or hitting challenging trails or anything like that, you probably don't need something like this. However, I wanted something, one, that I could add a winch to. So this does have a winch plate in there, and I've got my open road Panther 2S in there, which I've used a number of times. It's just been a great little winch. But that is in there. So I've got a winch for self-recovery. I do a lot of solo trips and stuff. So again, that made sense to me to have the extra protection on the front of the vehicle as well as the winch ability so that if I got stuck somewhere, I have a way to self-recover. The other thing is it gives you D-ring points. So again, if you're doing off-roading, if you are into more challenging, more fun trails, then there's going to be a much higher percentage chance that you're going to get stuck and you're going to need to be recovered, which again is why I have the front bumper. Another thing about the front bumper is versus the stock fascia that hangs way lower, it gives you much better clearance and a much better approach angle. So again, all of that is related to off-roading. If you are going to go places where most people can't get, which is kind of the idea behind overlanding, you want to be sure that you can get there safely and that you can get yourself out if you were to get stuck. So that's why I went with that up front. Now, I did add a 20-inch light bar in here, and I also added ditch lights up here. So I've got these O-Light ditch lights up here, and then that is a Novasight light bar down in the grill. The reason for that is I do a lot of nighttime driving. I've been up in Wisconsin before, and I've kind of not been able to find a campsite, and it's been 8, 9, 10 o'clock, and you're cruising around. Whether you think you're going to be at camp every day by 4 o'clock or not, you very often will find that you are not going to make it on time. And when that happens and you've got a bunch of deer or other large animals kind of everywhere, it gets pretty sketchy pretty quick. Same with like tight turns and just being off road and not being able to see obstacles and things where you're going. To me, lighting is very important, but I didn't want to go crazy. I don't want like a giant light bar on the top. That's an aesthetic choice. But, you know, in my opinion, I don't want to be too over the top, but I do want to have, you know, a way to light up to the side of my truck, and I want to have better lights out front. So that's the reason that I went with those. And, you know, lights are important now. Like they say, lockers before light bars. That is true. I would make sure that your truck is mechanically sound and maintained and then capable before you start doing stuff like light bars or things like that. But again, I do a lot of like overlanding. I do moderate trails, but I'm not doing crazy rock crawling or anything like that. So for the most part, lighting is pretty important for me just because I'm going to find myself on a gravel road somewhere in the middle of the night in Wisconsin more often than not. So now coming around to the side of the truck, I did somewhat recently upgrade to these Brink wheels, these Barracks. I love these wheels. That is a purely aesthetic choice too. These are 17s, but so are the stock wheels. For a long time, I ran the stock wheels on this truck, and I had Kenda Cleaver RTs on that. It's a hybrid tire. And the reason for that, again, is because I I like to do moderate trails, but I also have to drive the truck daily. After a couple of years of running the Kenda Cleavers, though, especially on this truck with all the weight that I've got on it, that becomes a consideration when you've got a bunch of weight and stuff and you have to drive it daily. When you're going through a roundabout and your tires are meant for off-road with that hybrid design, I was having a lot of slipping and sliding. I was having a lot of understeer and kind of pushing through like roundabouts and stuff near my house, and it was getting a little sketchy. So I ended up switching to these Nitto Terra Grappler G3s, which I love. I mean, the wet traction in these is awesome. They're probably not quite as good off-road, but they're almost as good off-road. So again, I've been really, really happy with these things. They're not quite as aggressive looking as the Kendas, but from a practicality standpoint, some good AT tires will get you a lot farther than, you know, sort of the crappy stock tires that come on a lot of vehicles. And you can also go oversized. So I went with 33-inch tires on my truck because the bigger that your tire diameter is, the more actual ground clearance you get. When people put on lifts and stuff, they think they're lifting their truck and that's getting your truck higher off the ground. In fact, it's actually just moving the vehicle up a little bit to make room for these tires. But the difference that actually gets you more clearance is adding bigger tires. Correct me in the comments if I said that wrong, but you know what I mean. But so with these 33-inch tires, it lifted up the actual truck a little bit. It got me a little bit more ground clearance between my diffs and the ground. And that allows me to go to more places that I couldn't go before. These trucks, especially these new Frontiers, have like 9.4 inches of ground clearance stock. It's like a Subaru on ground clearance. So these do take a little bit of modification to get up off the ground, to get them a little bit higher and to get bigger tires on them. But then they are a lot more capable even than they are stock. But even stock, these things are pretty good off-road and have a lot of capability built into them. Now, you may notice here too, if you're watching on YouTube, but I do have a Z1 off-road Snorkel. That is because I go to Michigan a lot. I've done a lot of bigger water crossings and stuff up there. In Manistee area, I've gotten stuck in creeks before and stuff. So that's just kind of a peace of mind thing. Also, when I was out in Wyoming, it was very, very dusty. We literally were like knocking dust out of our air filters every single day. So getting this up and away from, you know, the dust coming from the vehicle in front of you when you're kind of convoying through a trail for days and days and days in a row helps with cleanliness of the air filter and just protects the engine. So that's a nice feature of that. But again, you have to cut through the side of your fender to mount this. You have to have some mechanical knowledge or you have to pay money to a shop to do that. So if you're not going to be doing a lot of super dusty trails for long periods of time in a convoy or doing a lot of big water crossings, then you may not need a Snorkel. You don't need to get it, right? One thing to consider too is that a Snorkel is not a one solution fits all for water crossing. So a lot of people think I just get a Snorkel, throw it on there and I can go through water up to my, doorknobs. That's not necessarily true, especially on the Frontiers. The rear diff is not vented, so you can very easily suck water into the rear diff and then foul out your rear axle. So one of the first mods that I did to this truck that you can't see is I did a diff breather relocation mod. So my diff breather, and if you're not familiar with vehicles, if you're not a super car person, basically your differential in the back is what takes the power from the motor and then transitions it out into your wheels, right? Turns your back wheels for a rear wheel drive truck like this. But there's a little breather on top of that axle that vents gases from the axle. And again, there's back pressure. So if you're going through water and stuff and it's over the axle, it's very possible that that could suck water in through that breather, which you do not want water. So by relocating it, you basically attach a small tube to the rear axle, which I don't know if you can see up under there, but then it runs up through here and then mine actually goes behind my taillight right over here. So there's actually a little filter back in here with a tube that runs down to that axle. But again, versus just the water getting up to there on my rear axle, now the water would have to be up over my taillight before it can get into the axle. So just a peace of mind thing. The Snorkel, all that stuff is for mechanical reliability and extending the life of these vehicles when you're going to do stupid stuff like go through big water crossings and things like that most vehicles are not intended for from the factory. Now, also on the side here, a couple things to point out. My Wii Boost up there, that is, it's a must-have for me. Everybody has been talking a bunch of crap about Wii Boosts online, and I get it. It is pretty expensive at $450 to $500 for something like that for just a cell phone signal booster, especially now that there is Starlink. But once you buy this thing, there are no plans. It works with multiple phones. I can have my phone. My kid has his phone. We've got an iPad in the car. It boosts everything around it, and it works 24/7. You don't have to worry about alignment or calibration. And again, no plans or anything like that. The Starlink, I have to make sure it's updated. I have to download updates constantly. I have to get it set up. I have to calibrate. I have to optimize it. I have to move it around. Right now where I'm at, I mean, we're totally covered up with trees. So the Starlink would probably be a pain in the butt to get to work right now. But the WeBoost works all the time. And in this spot, I have maybe 1 bar of cell phone reception. And with the WeBoost, I have 3. And I can actually like stream video and get calls through and stuff like that out here with the help of the WeBoost. So I like the WeBoost for me. If you're in a spot where you have a little bit of reception, but not very good reception, I think the WeBoost makes a lot more sense than a Starlink. If you're out west and you have totally wide open skies and you are okay with paying the monthly subscription fee for Starlink, then a Starlink makes a ton of sense and is really nice too. So that's why I do the WeBoost. On this side, I've got my Rain outdoor awning. This is a 270 awning that's really, really fast to deploy. It's different from a lot of the like Chinese-based awnings out there in that it is a one side, one pole. So basically all of this folds out. You pull it all the way around the back of the truck. There's not 2 ways like my old open road went out to the front and then you had to pull it out to the back and you had to hook up 2 straps and pull them across the vehicle. This thing, you just pull it all the way around to the back and you attach 1 strap and you're totally done. And it is completely freestanding. I very seldom ever even drop the legs on it. You can stake it down. You can put legs down and stuff, but I went with this because, again, I'm lazy and I like to set up and tear down really, really fast, and I like ease, and I don't like poles being in my way. So that's why I went with the Rain outdoor awning, and it's been great. On top of my rooftop tent, I've got a 200-watt Bouge RV solar panel. The reason for that is I've got a dual battery system in this truck. Now, for a lot of people, that may be overkill. So I'm not throwing this out here as like everybody should have a dual battery by any means, but again, I'm pretty into overlanding. So for me, it's nice to be able to power my fridge. It's nice to be able to hook up a diesel heater, not have to worry about power bank restrictions that may not allow it to start. So for me, having the dual battery system is awesome, but then I want to keep it charged. I don't want to always be coming out and having to plug it into shore power or doing stuff like that. So I just leave the solar on top of the rooftop tent 24/7. I go on a trip, maybe I use 30-40% of my 200 amp hour battery, and by the time I get home, it's mostly charged back up, or when it sits in my driveway, it will charge back up within a day or 2, and I'm good to go on my next trip. So coming around here to the back, I have this Billy Bars tailgate cover. I got that because that awful plastic corrugated tailgate is just awful to climb up on with your knees when you're trying to put your rooftop tent up. And it's also harder to cook. Whenever you set stuff on the tailgate, which is my primary place where I cook, it tilts sideways and you can't stand it up on that corrugated stuff. So having a flat surface is really, really nice. Having these cup holders is really, really nice. But it's a preference thing. If you're never going to use your tailgate, don't waste the money. Now, I built myself a drawer system. Reason for this was purely monetary. It cost me about $250 worth of materials for these drawers, but these things are absolutely massive. So, I mean, I've got just a ton of gear and food and all kinds of things in here, and I've got 2 of these drawers. They're both the same size. I've got customizable dividers in here that you can move around. So for me, that made a ton of sense, and for a couple $100, it's much better than, say, $1,000-$1,500 on like a decked system or something similar. So that's why I went with that, because I wanted the storage. I wanted the waterproof storage, but I didn't want to pay the big bucks for the big guy stuff. So I built my own. I'll throw a card up here if you're on YouTube to the build video that I did on that, if you're curious about it. It's basically just a big 48 by 48 box with 2 drawers in it. So that would pretty much fit in anything with a 5-foot bed. That's basically what I've done with it. Is it's universal. You can put this in a Ranger or a Colorado or whatever you want. But for me, it's worked great. It's been in the truck since I got it 2.5 years ago. And I've never had a leak in it. It just works great. I rhino lined it because it was cheap and because it waterproofed the outside and sealed all the cracks between all the joints and stuff. So that was pretty easy. Then I've got this T-mat stuff up on top of here. And the reason for that is it's a very modular way to move things around. So again, I'd like to be fast. I don't want to have to unhook a bunch of D-rings from bungee cords and unstrap all my stuff. With the T-mat stuff, you can just pop these little plugs sort of in and out. They have this proprietary sort of X shape in them. And then when you put that in there, then it changes up your setup. So like I'm taking this propane tank to this expo I'm going to this weekend. And so I just move these dividers around, and then it holds that thing nice and tight in there. It keeps it from sliding. I don't have to strap it down. If I want to get to it, I can just slide it out. Makes everything really easy. Next to that is my Iceco APL 55 fridge. Again, this thing is weatherproof. It's been in the open back of my truck for the last 1.5 years, and it just runs. It's been great. I mean, I turn it off when I'm not using it, but then when I'm getting ready to go on a trip the day before, I'll flip it on, let it get cooled down, and then you're ready to go. But it's got a ton of capacity in it. I like that it's hard mounted here. It's also on a tilting slide that I built. that, again, if you're on YouTube, I'll throw a card to that too. But works really, really well and allows me to access everything. But then I've got a fridge. So if I go to the grocery store and I buy a couple gallons of milk and need to run some other errands, I can throw it in my fridge, which is really nice. So that's why I did it. I do this a lot. I go camping a lot. But if you don't and you need to use your bed of your truck for other things, this may not be a good setup for you, right? I cannot carry a mower in here. I can't go to the hardware store and get a bunch of mulch or anything because I just don't have room in my truck. So I'm definitely leaning heavily towards the, dedicated vehicle side versus the weekender kind of setup. Now, I've also got a 5-pound propane tank here that kind of stays on the truck 24/7. I use that for cooking and I use it for fire pits. So that just gives me an option. Again, you don't have to do that. If you're not going to do much propane stuff, not worth it. But for me, having that so that I can have a propane fire if I want to, or cook whenever I want to, is really nice. And it's much easier and better for the environment than using the disposable 1-pound tanks. Now, below that is my Top Oak, I think it's 7.6 gallon water tank. This thing's been really, really nice. I was a little hesitant at first just because I didn't know that I needed the water. But I love that it's mounted inside my bed rack, so it's kind of totally out of the way. But when I need water for like a shower or to clean some dishes or something, but then I don't have to worry about packing as much water, especially for those things like showering and cleaning dishes that like I always have to do, but I just don't want to mess with it. Like I have my awesome Rotopax 5-gallon camp jug over here, but I use that for drinking water, right? So it's me and my son this weekend for 4 days. So I brought a 5-gallon jug for drinking water, but I didn't even have to worry about it. I know that I've got 7+ gallons of water here for dishes and all that sort of stuff. So I didn't have to worry about, will I have enough water? Like that's going to be plenty of water for drinking. This is plenty of water for dishes and a shower if we need it. So it's just nice to have that dedicated water storage. However, if you, again, aren't going to go that much, if you're not going to hardly ever shower, if you're just going to take your dishes home and clean them up after a trip, if you do weekend trips, you don't need this kind of stuff. It's probably overkill. So kind of finishing up over here, I've got a Top Oak Stellar rooftop tent. This is my favorite rooftop tent that I've ever had. I've had 3 or 4 now, and I've had them across multiple vehicles, across multiple years. But this thing is really, really wide compared to a lot of them. It's a hard shell aluminum rooftop tent, but it's about 6 inches wider than any that I've ever had before, which is nice because then it gives me room for my spouse to come or my kids to come. And if they're not there, then it just gives me a ton of room to be comfortable and be able to spread out inside the tent, while also having plenty of room to like bring gear up there, like power banks or things like that. It's also wired, so I did hardwire mine to my dual battery, so there's a plug up there, so you can recharge stuff, you can use it to run like a heated blanket, so that's a really nice feature that it has as well. And then also on the side here, I've got my all-top shower tent room. Now, this is another one of those things where if you're not building a dedicated overlanding vehicle, then this is probably overkill. I like having it because I never know when I'm going to need to use it, right? I've had times where my kids are like, I need to go to the bathroom, and we're in like a big open campground. And so versus having to walk really super far or anything like that, we can just use this, pop it right off the side of the vehicle. Same with like showering. This thing works great at expos to have your own little, basically like a private shower room or changing room. It was a must-have. I actually installed it before one of my big trips that my wife went on, one of her first overlanding trips, because she was like, how am I supposed to change? I don't want to walk really far for the bathrooms. And so when I put this thing on, and it just became a nice, easy room to sort of set up. It's worth it. Its weight in gold. I mean, it's only about $150, but it's just so nice to have this dedicated, really quick to deploy way to have some privacy for going to the bathroom, showering, or changing clothes. Also on the side here, you will see sliders. So I do have Z1 off-road sliders on my truck. I've also got a couple pieces of their armor underneath. Again, that is related to off-roading. So if you want to do off-roading, then that may be what you want. You want to protect your truck. I didn't want to drop the sides on a rock and risk damaging my doors or my rocker panels. So I got the sliders, and they've been great. So then kind of the final thing that I want to touch on is my extrusion overland bed rack. I love this thing. It's all aluminum, so there's no rusting. It's just a great rack. It holds everything really well because of how modular it is with all the extrusion. You can put stuff wherever you want. I've got these panels up here that allow me to mount. Usually I have like an axe and a shovel on here. But this thing just gives you so many different ways to mount things. Like you'll notice up here, I've got a 1/4-20 mount, so I can attach a camera to this for if I'm rolling down a trail and I want to catch some video of the trail, I can do that. And I can move that thing around whenever I want. So just having something like that is really nice. But a bed rack is good if you don't want to spend the big money for like a cap, because there are like enclosed cap options now, but they're, somewhere in the like $3,000 to $5,000 or more ballpark. There are full drop-ins, which are kind of like a cap with an integrated rooftop tent on top of them. that are probably $10,000 to $25,000. A bed rack, though, like this extrusion bed rack, if you take off the molly panels and just go with the basic rack, I think it's like a $1,200 bed rack. And again, it's aluminum. It's never going to rust. It's super, super sturdy. Once you get it together, it was a little tricky to get together. But aside from that, this thing has been bulletproof since I put it on the truck, and it's been amazing. I am definitely planning to switch to an enclosed cap. And the main reason for that, and the why for that, is because this is open. This is why I have to have this big heavy drawer system. I have to have everything enclosed in here because it's going to get dusty. It's going to get rained on because the bed rack is totally open. When I get an enclosed cap system, then that changes everything, where I can hard mount stuff in here. So I can get rid of this entire super heavy drawer system. And I'm going to do built-ins along the sides here, where I'm going to have spots for charging everything. I'll keep my batteries charged for my phone and my cameras. I'll keep my fridge in there on a slide that can pop out. I'll have a Rotopax mount for my water jug on the side so I can keep that inside, but it'll keep everything dust-free, protected from the elements, secure. I don't have to worry about security or anything. That is a concern with the bed rack, is you could walk away with any of this stuff at any time, right? It's all open. So with a closed cap, if you're worried about security, if you're worried about dustiness, if you want to really go big with the like permanent overlanding build, then a cap may be a better option for you. Or if you don't want to spend the money, but you want to be able to mount a rooftop tent, a bed rack may be a good option. Or if you don't want to mess with any of that, do a ground tent like a Gazelle or something and a tonneau cover, and you can just throw stuff in via Plano crates in the back and use it as a truck when you don't need it. Load it up when you're ready to go. It's just a little bit more work. All right, guys, so as you saw, that was all the modifications on my truck and sort of the reasons why I did those things. You know, as I explained, I am pretty lazy. I like to set up quick. I like to tear down quick. We move camps generally every day. When I go overlanding, we are not staying put in one place. Obviously, if you're going to stay in one place, having something like a trailer for base camp style overlanding may make more sense. If you're not really big into big, crazy trails, then you may not need the lift and the bigger tires. So, I mean, a lot of these modifications are, again, going to depend on your setup and your preferences. But hopefully me sharing mine and the reasons that I made them helps you have a better idea of what you want to do to your vehicle. So if you're watching on YouTube or Spotify and you enjoyed the episode, hit the like button, add it to your favorites. That all helps a ton. If you're just listening on the regular podcast, leave a 5-star review. That helps as well. It tells people that the podcast is helpful and entertaining, and I appreciate it. In the description below will be links to all my other social channels. So wherever you want to come hang out, join the conversation, we'd love to have you. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, YouTube, of course. Wherever you want to hang out, I'm there. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, there's a join button below this video, which is just sort of a passive way to support the channel and also get you early access to all the podcasts as well as all the other videos that I do. Now, if you want to be more involved with all things overlanding, there's also a link to my Patreon page, which is awesome. We've got about 20-ish, 25 people in that group right now. We have a 24/7 Discord where we all chat about stuff and share memes. We do a once-a-month Zoom call, and then we're getting together in person once or twice a year to try and hang out around a campfire, which has been a ton of fun. So anybody in the $5 or up categories gets access to all that stuff. So definitely check that out. Also in the description below is a link to my website where I've got funny overlanding camping themed patches and stickers. So if you're looking for something to kind of decorate your rig or throw on your fridge or your windows, there's tons of funny patches and stickers down there. Things like don't burn your wiener and it's a hot dog, or F people, let's go overlanding. So again, check out that link if you're into patches and stickers. And then, of course, there is a link to the Newbie Overlanders Facebook group. This is a totally free to join group, almost 30,000 people at the time that I'm recording this. It's growing every day, which is a ton of fun, but different from the other big groups, we don't allow bullying, right? So if you're coming in there to self-promote a bunch, or if you just want to come in there and be mean to people, you're going to get kicked out, but that means a better experience for the rest of us. So if you're looking for a place that's more positive than a lot of the big groups, definitely check out Newbie Overlanders. But again, that'll do it for this episode of the podcast. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.